the interesting things that make a cave interesting that you don't obviously see on the outside of a cave is, for example, the first formation you see, the basic thing everyone knows about, the stalactite and stalagmite duo formation. You got the stalactite, hangs tightly to the ceiling. The stalagmite might trip over because it's on the ground. That's one of the first things we go over. And in our cave, we got a bunch of different things. We've got columns, giant, well, stalactites and stalagmites that have fused together and become one single formation. In our cave, we've got a 14.5-foot long column that's about 500,000 years old. That's the oldest formation in our cave and one of the most impressive. And we got some other stuff. We got obviously, it's called Crystal Cave. We got the crystals in there, two types of crystals, aragonite crystals and calcite crystals. We have various other things. We got stuff more kid-friendly, less scientific stuff. We've got this place called the zoo in the cave, in which a lot of formations actually, really almost surprisingly, look like actual animals. You'll see we got a lion in there, beaver, a seal. There's also more historical kind of aspects to the cave. We've got carvings in the cave. People come into the cave in the early days especially, and technically not supposed to do this, but carve their names into the flowstone of the rock. So there's a whole, wide variety of things you're definitely not going to see on the outside, you'll see in there. If someone goes on a tour of the cave, they're going to see what you would consider the majority of the cave itself, but there are a large number of very narrow and small side or sub-passageways that stretch all throughout the cave. The gift shop actually does sell a map of all these different side passageways. The entire cave has been fully explored in every which way, and some of these side passageways, you'll be going along the path and the tour guide will point one out, and some of those side passageways go off hundreds of feet in various directions, this way and that way. So it's actually a fairly extensive network of side tunnels. As far as the temperature of the cave goes, that's actually one of the more interesting things in a sheer physical sense, is when you walk into the cave during the summertime, it's going to feel very nice and cool. It could be 90 degrees outside. You walk in the cave, it's going to be a cool 54 degrees. Likewise, in the wintertime, you'll come in, it could be literally 0 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and you'll go in the cave and it'll feel obviously very nice and warm, relatively speaking, because it'll be 54 degrees in there. And 54 degrees year-round. There's a slight difference in when you go higher up in the cave, it's a couple degrees warmer year-round. Go lower down in the cave, it's a couple degrees cooler, but that's about it. About 54 degrees year-round. The lowest part of the cave that guests are allowed to be in, which is about 125 feet underground, there's a big crack that runs along the ceiling of that room in there. And it's actually a fault line, part of the Blue Ridge fault system of Pennsylvania. And that also shows us that's actually the weakest part of the cave, which of course frightens some guests when I tell them that initially, but they're rest assured that despite being the weakest part of the cave where the fault line is, it actually would take about a 6.5 earthquake to bring it down. So this area doesn't get anything near that size, actually.